like sucking, but I ain't gay.
Legit bad podcast.
Fuck those honkies.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
He really knows how to suck a wiener.
Well, hey, welcome back to Legit Bat. I'm Joe. Co-hosting with me today is Brandon from Expanding Reality. Y'all should know him by now. I wanted to let you know the next week we're going to bludgeon y'all to death with shows because I'm on vacation, so I'm scheduling a lot of people that we can't normally get on, on our normal recording day. So it's going to be a lot. Listen at your leisure. Also, big thanks to my buddy Sean over at Tub Turkey Podcast, and check out his AI music channel. He's really trying to get that out there. I'll put another link in the notes. I believe I did last show as well. But today we have, I think, third time returning champion of the world, Todd Cave. And the last couple shows we've done with him have just been amazing stuff, and we're going to get right back into it again. I always knew I was going to schedule him back on as a regular, so it's awesome to have him back on. Finally got the scheduling down. We made it. Obviously, Jen and Ben aren't here, but, we'll figure it out. Anyway, Brandon, off the top here, why don't you give us your plugs and all that stuff? Introduce yourself. Maybe there's some new listeners who don't know who you are.
Yeah, new listeners, what's up? I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Joe. Todd, very much looking forward to this, dude. Been checking you out. You and I have actually connected, but not connected, and here we are, and I'm grateful for this. So it's a damn honor. You guys out there in the listening audience, we can be found wherever podcasts are served, as well as expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's going to break down the three things we're doing: the show, the publishing house, journals behind me here. We have 7 in print on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And then also our events, our third trilogy there, the Trinity base of what we got going here. So we're scheduling a lot of cool things. Going to make it out your way. Joe and Jen are going to be joining us for one of these in Northern California pretty soon. So very much looking forward to that. Grateful to be here. Todd, super pumped to hang out with you. And thanks, audience.
Yes, sir. And Todd, why don't you do the same thing? Introduce yourself. And I know you just started a podcast as well, so tell us about that.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here and glad to be back, and nice to connect to you, Brandon, because we spoke, like you said, but we actually didn't get to connect. So I guess it just was at the time, and the universe has a strange way of putting things together when they're supposed to happen,
Divine timing. I love it.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I just started my own podcast. It's something I've been thinking about doing for a while, but as we human beings, we tend to avoid the things that you seem to supposed to do. And basically a few weeks ago, I was sleeping and I was literally woken up out of my sleep, and I heard 2 words in a very loud voice, which was my own, and it said, "Do podcasts." And I have found there have been a few times in my life where I've had this voice, I call it the voice, that speaks to me. And I don't always listen, but when I do, then I realize that it's something that I'm supposed to be doing. And honestly, I actually love it, man. I really, really love doing podcasts. Is something that I didn't think I would love so much. And the added responsibility and workflow, that was one of the things I was avoiding. But again, the things that you avoid the most are the things that give you the most growth and the most joy and happiness. And I'm very glad to be part of the community and part of a group of people that are trying to get the truth out there, help our fellow brothers and sisters, because what is becoming extremely clear to me is that no one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And in order to do that, we work on ourselves, touch, move, and inspire others to work on themselves. And all of these topics and things I go into detail on my new show called The Conscious Man 7. So available on all major platforms: Spreaker, Amazon Music, Spotify, Amazon, Deezer, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey. Where there's a place to stream, you probably will be able to find me. So The Conscious Man 7. And again, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to having a great chat with you lads.
Hell yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'll put your links to your show, of course, in the notes as well. But so we were talking before the show a little bit about the things we've talked about in the past, Anunnaki, AI, and kind of how all those link together, and the current situation we find ourselves in here. Have you had any new, have you heard the voice? Is there something new or something crazy you've come across that's really like stuck in your craw?
Well, what I have realized is that AI already exists and is actually BI, is biological intelligence, which is us. And what it is that from my research, it has seen that we've actually been here before, because the greatest civilization to ever walk this planet were the Atlanteans. And it appears that they actually came to this same point that we're at, and they basically opened Pandora's box. And by opening that box, they ended up bringing in a lot of entities that were basically in the fourth dimension, which is the lower level, because our real true home is the fifth dimension. So even though the fourth is above the third, it is really below, because the third isn't really where we're from. We only came here to enjoy, I want to say enjoy, but to experience the physical realm, to have feelings and emotions, have heartbreaks, have a family, do all this, running the mill stuff. And then we leave the body and then we go back. But for some reason, we keep reincarnating here and we keep coming back. I have connected with a past life before, and I've seen who I was. So I know for a fact it is real. And then, what has been shown to me through some psychedelic experiences, that basically this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And like I said, it was something that I avoided and I didn't want to do. And I even had I remember it was about 10 years ago, I did a personal development course called the Landmark Forum. And long story short, they wanted me to become a coach, and I avoided it for a long time. And what ended up happening to me is I got coaxed in it, and I did the full program, and I did a project. And they were like, "But Todd, don't you realize that this is what you're supposed to do? You were really good at it. You're a natural. Why don't you embrace it?" And I was just like, I didn't want it. So I say all that to say is that we have to use our skills and talents to help others. And what has happened from my observation is that we tend to bury our talents and get stuck into the matrix of going to do a job that we don't like. Then what happens is that job may or may not give us the amount of money that we want. But let's say we look at both sides. Say you're doing a job that you don't like and it pays you a lot of money. In return, you're actually not happy. You don't feel fulfilled in life. Then you have another guy that's working a job he doesn't like. He's not really getting paid, and his stresses are to pay bills and stuff. And he also still feels unfulfilled. And both guys are the same place where they're not feeling fulfilled in life. One has money, one doesn't. And the guy that has no money is looking up to the guy that has money, and he's like, I wish I were him. And the guy that has a lot of money is saying, this guy that has no money has no care in the world, no stress, and he doesn't have any money, and he's just going on in life like if nothing is happening. And he's like, not that he wished to be like him, but he envies that part of him. So, all of these things are paradigms that have become very present to me, but I've become very conscious of it. And it is because we keep reincarnating here all the time, having very similar experiences and not really learning. And what it is now is that we are actually the biological intelligence, and then we can go to a higher level and become the God man, which is where you realize your full divinity. And because we all are God. I am God, you are God, the plants are God, the trees are God, the animals are God. And this is where the word namaste comes from, which is a term that the Indians use, and in that part of the world, Asia, the eastern part, where they bow and they class hands and say namaste. And what that means is that it means I bow to the divine in you. So they acknowledge through that word that they're all gods, right? And the problem that we have is that we don't realize how great we are, right? And what is being tricked upon us and forced upon us is artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, they're telling us, is going to be is going to be superior than us. But in reality, we are superior to the AI because we're the ones creating it. So how can the creation be superior than the creator, right? And when you look at yourself, when you connect to yourself on higher levels, you can teleport, you can do telekinesis, you can do telepathy, you can heal yourself. Well, there are books like the life and teaching of the masters of the Far East, where these guys are actually healing people. And the reason why they're not making themselves known to man a lot is that they say that we human beings, we tend to shy away from the work, and we want people to do things for us and save us instead of us saving ourselves. So the biological intelligence is superior to the artificial intelligence, but the artificial intelligence with the right programming and with morality can be a very, very good tool to make mundane tasks that humans, don't really want to do, like accounting and all these other kind of things, like cleaning, these kind of things that, we don't really want to do, that you can get artificial intelligence to do for us. So I do see that it is a very slippery slope if we don't program it to be positive, but there you need the people that are programming it to be spiritually aware and have a high level consciousness to input that sort of programming in it to make it a helper to us and not we be the slave to it. Make sense?
Yeah, and that seems to be the problem too, from what I've seen, is that a lot of the AIs like ChatGPT, they're very, very obviously on a certain political side, or idea-wise, or pronouns, all this stuff. But that is the problem with programming AI, is that it's fallible humans doing it. So when they're expecting the AI to be superior, it's like, no, it's only going to be as good as humans are. And we've seen most humans are pretty shitty most of the time. So I don't know why you think that in Silicon Valley, they're the ones programming this thing. That's terrifying. I don't want an AI based on those guys.
Dude, you nailed it with this thing. And I wanted to ask you about AI and its integration and its influence, which is something I find fascinating. Because technology alone, it's a survival tool now. You kind of need to be in with technology just to sort of survive here. And so as we become more and more dependent on that to be something ever present in our lives, it's interesting. And I think back to Carl Sagan sent out a plaque in the 70s on Voyager probe, and it had what the humans were, where we were located, what our makeup was, which was like DNA based, and then we were carbon based life forms, right? And they sent this thing out. Well, not too long after that, the Arecibo telescope, right next to it, there was a crop circle that ended up in the ground over there that was the same 10 points that Sagan sent out, and it answered all 10 of them for what they were, right? It showed what star system they came from, which was not ours. It showed also that their DNA was made up of silica, that they were silica-based life form where ours was carbon. So I sort of think of this infiltration, this alien threat that might not be sort of ships coming down here. Maybe it's already here in the form of this spiritual AI sort of invited into these, these black mirrors, these scribe mirrors that we carry around all over the place that are 100% dependent on silica. And that runs everything that we have. So it's sort of interesting, and I just kind of want to get your take on that. What do you think about that? That silica-based life forms are actually what the AI is possibly being able to be utilized by?
Well, what it looks like is that the people that are pushing these agendas seem to be channeling something that is not from this world.
Yeah.
And the artificial part needs the silica and the silicon in order to exist, right? Because when you go back to the ancient texts, and I always go back to the ancient texts because these a lot of people think that these are just myths, but you can see so many connections. When in the Nag Hammadi, when the Yaldabaoth, who was the bastard son of Sophia, when he created the material world, he created a system to replicate what is in the etheric. And in the only way to create a physical thing was to actually have, like, through microchips, silica, and all these kind of things to make it exist, right? And they show us this in many different movies, like The Matrix and stuff. And all of these people that are writing these movies are channeling something not from this world, right? That part we know 100%. Whether it may be an entity come in, we don't know. But what we do know is that 100%, the people that are behind the scenes running stuff are channeling information from another world and putting it on us. And basically what they're doing is that everything in this universe is from source. All of us are from source. So basically we are source. But in order to have something that is anti-source, you have to reverse engineer everything. And in order to do that, you need technology in order to manifest it. This is why even George Orwell said that it's through the technology. We will have them glued to their technology in a few in years to come, right? And even though that was what was written in 1948, it has been extremely prophetic. And the reason why is that George Orwell and people like Aldous Huxley were Fabianists. They were part of the Fabian Institute. And the Fabian Institute in the UK is one of the big, basically, players in pushing all of these type of things. And the thing is that there are two factions. One faction wants to do it by brute force and just do it by conquest. And the next part, which is the Fabianists, want to do it drip by drip by drip by drip. The kind of the killing of the frog by putting it in water type method, where it's only at the last minute you realize. So what's happening now is that the artificial intelligence now, they're pushing on us because they want us to make it, they want us to make us think life would become so much easier. But in fact, if we don't program it the right way, we will become the slaves to it, as in the the Terminator movie, right? With Sarah Connor and Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Basically, those movies were prophetic, right? So where we are now is that we're on the precipice of where Atlantis was before Atlantis disappeared, because they opened portals through trying to create a synthetic Merkaba. And the Merkaba is based on toroidal energy, which is basically the key to understanding anti-gravity technology, how to come in and out, teleportation and stuff, because it's all based on the 369 principle. And you have the two triangles upside down, one of the spinning in opposite directions. And that vortex is what creates that time and space bending that is possible.
And
So
where have we seen that symbol a lot lately?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dude, I am going to share something with you that oh, man. So that symbol, right? Actually,
it's not the Star of David.
Well,
No.
This is the thing, right? If you were to ask that group of people where that symbol actually came from, they actually can't tell you, right? But what we do know is in scripture, and I'm going to give you the quote, the places where you can find it, right? And you can see, you can link it back, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is really the situation. So if you look in the Bible for Amos 5:26-27, and it says, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, the images that you made to worship them, right? That is one quote. The next one is Acts 7:43. You took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, the images that you made to worship, and I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. Now, that same group of people and that religion, which has been very prominent in the media recently, was created and formed in Babylon, right? The chief god of Babylon was Moloch. Moloch is actually Marduk, right? That's what they, this is it, right? Exactly what you're sharing there, right?
Yep.
Now, this is the thing. Remphan is actually the star Saturn. And on top of Saturn is a hexagram. It's a six-sided, it's the same symbol that is on that same flag, right? That shall remain nameless, right? So those group of people are worshiping an extraterrestrial god with symbology on the planet Saturn. Saturn, Saturnalia, Christmas. That's how that whole festival was created. And Saturnalia was the worship of the god Jupiter, which was also associated to that god Marduk, right?
Yeah, and real quick for the audio listeners, what they didn't see, I just threw it up on the screen, is if you look up Star of David origin on the old Goog, It says the Star of David is not Jewish in origin, but rather is found in antiquity in a variety of mystical, alchemical, and magical writings. So interesting to go down that hole and see where that happened. But continue, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that star, that shape is actually the shape of the Merkaba, right? So what these people have done, or the group of people, is that they've inverted everything that's good. So it's not that a hexagram is actually bad, but by inverting the meaning and bringing out other things associated with the symbology is what made it bad. So they were worshiping Saturn, which is associated to Marduk, Moloch, Amun-Ra. This is why when Amun-Ra said that after you say your prayers, you say amen afterwards. Amen, Amun-Ra. So all of these things are connected, right? So basically what it is now is that we have solar cult worship because Saturn is known as the black sun, right? So we have a group of people that think that they're trying to do good, but are actually the progenitors of creating the world that we're in through occult, solar cult worship that involves a lot of pedophilia, child sacrifice, and human sacrifice, because these extraterrestrial gods seem to feed off the energy and specifically the adrenochrome that's produced from the torch of young children and babies, right? So when you look back at all of the stuff inside of there, and even in the scriptures like the Talmud, dude, it is heinous stuff. But they think that they're doing all of this for the good of humanity because their belief system is salvation through sin. So they believe that basically, in order to get God, quotation marks, to come back, they have to create the environment for God to come back. But the question I ask is, which God? And the God seems to be Marduk, right? Because he went to war with the Anunnaki and he won dominion and he started 2 pyramid wars. And one of those wars, they used nuclear weapons. And the next war, basically, he defeated them. And he was basically in the age of Pisces. So what it is now is that now that we're going into Aquarius, his reign is supposed to diminish. This is why what's happening is that all truth is being revealed. You're having podcasts coming out. You have people talking about these things. You have discoveries about all this information. You have the introduction of AI. You have the corruption of governments, systems. You have things like the petrodollar that actually just got a major hit a few weeks ago when Saudi Arabia agreed to start accepting other currencies, not only dollars. That is something that's not very much talked about. And money was created in Babylon, which is why it's called Babylonian magic. So the whole system seems to be coming out of Babylon. And what group of people had their religion formed in Babylon? All roads lead back to there. So it's really.
What do you think? I like to ask guests this a lot. In this community, we use the term they, which is funny. It's a pronoun, but they, the people doing this and running all these things, the ones that are holding the puppet strings of Biden and Trump and everybody else. Who is that to you? Like, what's your idea of that? Is that the Anunnaki, which can be known by other things? Christians would call it demons, probably. I'm not sure. But we just had a Christian guy on the other day, and I mean, his worldview is completely different, obviously, because he's a Christian. He goes by the Bible and what. But it's funny because when you describe these things, you're kind of talking about the same things and using different words to describe the same thing. So when I have a guest on, and I had a listener say, we like to try our guests' hats on. I do. I like to see it through your personal lens. So what is the they or the people that are trying to run this besides calling them tiny hats? Because we know what those are.
Yeah, lizard.
Okay, that's a really good question. So there is a group that controls the planet lock, stock, and barrel. And that group is called the Committee of 300. They're also known as the Olympians. And in that Committee of 300 is what has in things like the Bilderberg Group, the Fabian Institute, the CFR, the CIA.
WHO, WEF.
Yes.
BlackRock.
Yep. Yes. Now, at the very top is like these 300 families, right? And they use a lot of numbers because 300 is a derivative of 3. So they always have a lot of ancient numerology and symbology involved in it. So in that group of 300, which are at the absolute top, Then you have the Anunnaki on top of them. But in this group here, that whole the Committee of 300 and the Anunnaki beings, that would be referred to as the Cabal, because the Cabal is extraterrestrial and terrestrial. So you have their bloodlines, which are the monarchies, the elites, the aristocrats, the politicians, the heads of state, etc., etc. All of those people are part of the Cabal. But the actual human part that controls everything are the Committee of 300. Then you have layers in that Committee of 300. You have the 3 levels of 13 families, right? And at the very top, you have the highest level of names that you would hardly even hear in the media. Families like the Aldobrandini, the Orsini, the Breckspear, the Samigli, the Medici. These are the 5 most powerful families on Earth. And they are the ones that are controlling everything, lock, stock, and barrel. And then obviously the other 13, the other 2 levels of 13. But in that top level 13, those 5 are the controlling, right? And then it branches down to the second level would be like the King of England, and then the third level would be like the central bankers, the politicians. Even Rothschild, he married into one of those families, right? So
I was going to say, so this goes above royalty even. Those are just pawns, just like the way the U.S. politicians are. They're just other little pawns that they dance around. Yeah.
Yes. I am almost certain that 99% of people have never heard those 5 names ever in their life. Ever. And they own everything. Like when they own, they basically own the Cabal, right?
Which is funny because these people don't even need money. They're so far above needing money or worrying about their next meal or anything. So when people say it's all about greed, no, it's control. It's not greed. They don't need money. That's irrelevant. That's a tool of slavery. They don't need money. They just need control. For what reason, though?
It's mad because what I realize is that because we are the progeny of the Anunnaki, we have taken on a lot of their character traits. And greed and control are are 2 of the traits that they had. Because when the Anunnaki came here, they're the ones that taught us everything. Because when you look back at the historical records, you found that there was a hominid species that was here on Earth. And then all of a sudden, there was just this huge jump in evolution. So evolution is correct, but at the same time, it was genetically modified and engineered evolution. And then they taught us, right? We know this because in the book of Enoch, it says that Azazel taught us meteorology, taught women face painting, i.e. makeup, taught us weapons of war. And then the other archons, which is what they refer to in the book of Enoch, which are really the Anunnaki, they taught us many different things. So you had just like a sort of like a primitive Homo erectus type being. Then all of a sudden, Homo sapiens sapien, just a massive jump overnight. And then we just know how to do all these things. And then what it is now is because we have their traits, they have sort of like steered us to embrace those negative traits. And then they have another party, Anunnaki, that are trying to help us, right? And teach us positive things like Thoth the Atlantean. So we have this real big power struggle between light and dark, right? At this level and at higher levels as well. And basically what it is that the ego is the real enemy, is the enemigo, because that's the one that feeds on fear, it feeds on lust, power, greed, suffering. The ego seems to be the thing that we came back here to conquer and to get soul growth. But what it is that because they control the planet, they control all media, all information, all technology release. They basically, if people were to understand the level of programming that exists in the world, it is by sheer luck that even a conversation like this is happening because all of us grew up in the propaganda, but we are the ones that were able to see through it and break away from it. And now we're approaching mass consciousness now. We're approaching it. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. Because since I started my podcast, the amount of people that have reached out to me now than 2 years ago is insane. Like, dude, soon as my inbox is just like next level, and I try to reply to every single one, but sometimes it takes me days. Right?
It's impossible.
It's not
Brandon
scalable.
knows what we're talking about. Yeah, it's a train wreck in there, and
It's okay. Forgive
sorry to
yourself for that.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, we apologize, guys. It's just so goddamn much. But we love you all. Know that even when we see it can't reply, dude, we love it all. So thank you for sending the energy to our inbox. Come on.
Absolutely. And I do have to start flagging messages to because there was this lady that messaged me like a month ago. And I was like, well, obviously I read the message, but I didn't reply. And what would have had to have happened is that I would have had to have a call or something would have happened and distracted me because I replied to all my messages. So now I start flagging messages so that when I go back in, I can see, I need to reply because it's next level. And we're approaching this. We're getting there because this is what in Revelation, in Matthew, it talks about the return of the Son of Man, where it says it shall, as lightning should strike in the east and flash in the west, so will be the return of the Son of Man. The problem now is that the fundamentalist Christians believe that an entity or a being is coming back to save them because first thing first, most Christians believe in an egregore because the word Jesus is not actually the character's name. His name is Yehoshua or Yeshua. And an egregore is a non-physical entity or thought form.
It's a massive tulpa on a nationwide or even international level. Egregore is a huge tulpa.
Veiny tulpa. Yeah.
Yeah. I can read the exact meaning so that is to know
It's interesting you say tulpa just while you're looking it up. Jane Roberts in that Seth Speaks book, she talks about Seth, the entity she was channeling allegedly in those books, was saying that Jesus, it was actually a hologram, and it was a play production to steer the narrative of human beings, and that actually no physical entities were present at all. And so it was more of an egregore. It was more of something that people expected so much that it manifested itself in physical form. Some say just like these cryptids running around out here with their dicks out like Bigfoot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to be offensive to Christians, we just had, like I said, the Christian guy, and we had a lot of new subscribers from that show, and we appreciate y'all. Again, we're just looking through different perspectives here. JT believes that Jesus came back already. Like Jesus has already returned the second time. Whatever your name or conception of that character is, he believes that already happened, and we're basically in the throes of the control of Satan or whatever, the Anunnaki, that type of that idea. So it seems that does check out. What do you think about that? About the idea of Jesus already came back and we're in the bad times. We're in the Kali Yuga.
The problem with that is that people need to look at Yeshua's words. Yeshua said, if they said I've returned and that I'm over there or I'm here, don't believe them, right? And the problem is that they don't want to accept that the word Jesus never, ever, ever, ever existed until about 400 years ago, right? The word that, the name of the character was Yehoshua or Yeshua, and that's an absolute fact that can't be denied. You have to go back to the Aramaic because that's the language that Christ spoke, and that was his name.
They didn't even have a J, right? Like the J wasn't even invented, so it couldn't have been.
No, I can drop some receipts on that as well too. So the term egregore is a non-physical entity or thought form that arises from the collective thoughts and emotions of a distinct group of individuals. Because the J never existed. It took over 1,600 years for that to arise, right? And I can actually tell, and the word that actually was Yehoshua, and then that got transliterated into Iseus, and then that got translated into Jesus, and then that got translated again into Jesus. So it was never actually a J, because J never existed in Aramaic or Hebrew. So basically, it was a 4-step approach. And basically, the Orthodox Hebrew was capital Y, capital H, capital W, apostrophe Shua. This is why I say Yehoshua or Yeshua. And it took nearly 1,600 years to evolve. So the Hebrew Yehoshua was first removed in Aramaic, so the HW, so it became Yeshua. Then in Aramaic and Hebrew, it was transliterated into Greek into Eseus. Now, fun fact for you, the word Eseus in Greek means hail Zeus. And Zeus was a Greek god in the Greek pantheon who is more likened to Enlil, which is an extraterrestrial god. So then in Greek, it was transliterated into Latin. And in the 1611 King James Bible, it was spelled Eseus. And I have receipts on that. I've seen that myself. And then in Latin, that's when it went into the term Jesus. So there was never a J. So J was not known in the 14th century. So what it was is that the J and I were both used as the Y. So it was like Yeseus, and it was Jesus. So the problem is that we have Christians that are saying, oh, there's power in the word Jesus, and they don't want to do the research and go back to the original text, look at the original term. And then when even you look in the Bible, he was referred to as the Christ, because the Christ is a spiritual office. Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, and Christ is Latin. And then on the other side of the pond, in Asia, in India, when you translate Christos, Greek, into Sanskrit, it becomes Krishna, Christ, the same consciousness. And these are facts, right? But the problem is that Christians want to take Christ for themselves, not realizing that Christ is a spiritual office that you attain when you overcome your fears and traumas, and you're able to use both sides of your brain, so you're both male and female. So this is why he used to talk in code about the marriage with the bride and the bridegroom. It is a spiritual thing, and it also is being able to use both sides of your brain. So the problem is that Christians now, like, they only want to believe what they're told, and they want to read one book and think that one book is the absolute word of God, not realizing that it was actually compiled by men. And then
translated and also written by men.
Yes. But it was translated and transliterated and changed, just like
and authorized by men and copywritten by men. Have you seen that copyright on the Bible? Wow.
Absolutely. Well, look, another thing for them. The word Lucifer actually comes from a translation from the Greek word phosphorus. The Greek word phosphorus means light bearer and was associated to Venus. Now, in the Sumerian tablets, we know that about a few thousand years ago, I think it was around 6,000 from memory, Venus did a flyby, because the Sumerian tablets talk about this galactic war between the planets, which I reckon, was the Anunnaki fighting, but they put themselves into the names of the planets to personify themselves, to make themselves immortal. But the Sumerian tablets nevertheless say that the planets collided, and that because of that, Venus did a flyby. So that means that Venus was closer to Earth, because Venus is the 5th planet, right? And Venus is still the brightest star in the sky at night. So if Venus was closer, the first thing that you would see in the morning is the sun. And if Venus is that bright, it means during the day, it would also be that bright. So it was actually phosphorus in the actual Greek text. And then that went to Latin, it was translated instead of transliterated. So what happened is that phosphorus became Lucifer. So what's happened is that the term Lucifer is not actually a bad name. Again, that's another egregore, because people believe it is bad. But it just means
inversion. Yeah.
Correct. It just means the star of the morning the morning star. And what is the first star that you see every morning? It is the sun.
The
And
other
we know
weird
that,
thing is that so Lucifer is the light bringer, and that's apparently a
yes,
bad thing somehow. But Jesus is also referred to as the light of the world. So what's going on with these conflicting or seemingly conflicting ideas? Like what is that?
this is the thing, right? I have seen some information that does refer to 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 Yeshua being also Lucifer, but in the true sense of being the light, right? So they were just looking, the way the information was presented as just using etymology, the meaning of words, because words actually have meanings. And there's a very common word that we use in our society that most people actually don't have a clue on what it means, and it is misogyny. And the word misogyny literally means the hatred of women, right? So if you literally hate women as a group, you are really a misogynist. But if you say anything that goes against the narrative of, say, feminism, for example, you are deemed a misogynist because your views are anti. And then on the flip side, you have misandry, which is the hatred of men. But no one uses these terms correctly. So this is why I brought up that to show that in reality, what you're saying could actually be true. Yeshua could have been Lucifer, with the actual meaning being in the star of the morning, the actual sun, right? And the sun and he was referred to as the Son of Man. So if the Son of Man is basically, and they try to use a different word as well, the sun, again, it was inverted. Looking at the actual definitions, I can see how the person was saying that it could be. Do we know for absolute certain? We don't know. But what we do know is that he called himself the Son of Man. Thoth called himself the son of Atlantis. Venus used to be a sun. We know that from the Sumerian tablets. And Lucifer means phosphorus. So I'm just presenting the information and saying, look, go and do the research, see what you find. But in terms of looking at etymology, which means the study of words and the meanings, that is what the information shows.
Yeah, and so this is absolute heresy from the Christian stance, but like to think about how everything's inverted, I don't think anybody can really argue that it isn't. If you look around the world today, everything's upside down. We're living in Clown Town, planet retard. Like this is stupid. So it's not really a stretch too far to think that they took the real God or whatever you want to think about that and inverted it, and now they tricked people into worshiping the wrong thing. And I say wrong loosely because I don't know what the fuck is right. But so can you see where that would happen, where they flipped it so that you're actually worshiping the wrong thing? And
Absolutely.
is that the great delusion that the Bible talks about? Like
Absolutely.
that would be the ultimate delusion, that they tricked everybody into worshiping the wrong God for 2,000 years. Who knows?
Well, I can give you some receipts because I don't want anyone telling me that I just is what I believe. So if you go back to the Bible and you look in Judges 21, verse 10 to 24, in that book, God, quotation marks, endorses murder, rape, and pillage at Jabesh. Then if you look at Numbers is a terrible book as well. Numbers 31, 7 to 18, more murder, rape, and pillage of the Midianites, right?
But that was holy. That was holy though, because they were evil people. So it's okay to do that. It's like how the U.S. Bombs brown people. They're like, but they're the bad guys, so it's fine. Sorry, Brandon, I cut you off.
No, that's right. You're right. I mean, in there it says he looked at a butthole and he had to go. It couldn't happen. You just got to let him go, let him burn. I love this. I mean, I could not agree more, Todd. I've got a whole list of Bible verses the same as you right here. I think didn't we do this with Gary came on?
Oh, Gary Wayne. Yeah, that ended up being weird,
part?
but I love it. I don't know, maybe.
I had somebody really sweet from your show write in about that, by the way. So thank you for that.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, all the John 44, the devil's a murder from the beginning, all of that. And then it wraps it up in Revelation, which I'm sure you're going to get to, Todd. So I won't step on your toes here, but I'm on the same vein with you. And it's a wonderful question, dude.
So what it is now is that there's one of them here that like is just absolutely mad of it all, right? And
Feel free to screen share too. If you got something pulled up, you can go ahead and screen share so the
oh yeah, for the
video
video,
can see
for the
it.
video people, yeah, they can actually see. Yeah, they can do that. You can brilliant because you know, like I like to show receipts, man. You know, when they can. Let's see if we can get that centrally there. Because I've basically spoken about these things, like you know, I've had to do presentations. Which one is it? Yes, this one. Good. So then let's look at this one. Kill non-believers. 2 Chronicles 15, 12 to 13, right? Then now let's go on the other side, the other Abrahamic religion, right? You have murder, martyrdom, and conquest. Sahih Muslim 22, Sahih Bukhari 2797, right? I have been commanded to fight the people until they say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Sahih Muslim 22, right? You got the same type of information, you know. Then you got here, sex slavery is permitted. Surah 33, 50, right? Surah 4:24. Sex with minors is actually allowed, you know, chapter 65, verse 4. You had Muhammad had sex with Aisha when she was 9 years old, right? So as you can see, this is basically the same thing, right? Now, one of the things that I ask people, and this is how I get people to think, right? When they try to push back against me, I say, okay, let's set an equal form of measurement here. Let's say let's put up two scales here. Can we agree that an apple tree cannot produce oranges? Most people would say yes, it's okay. So
that's
if
science.
It can actually. If you graft one branch on from an orange tree, it'll match up the cambium layer, and that one branch will grow oranges. So it's technically a trick question, but I know where you're going with this.
Right. So if you have an apple seed, what you're
There
saying
you
is true because you graft and you would get a hybrid.
It's
But if
so cool.
If you take the pure seed and you plant it, you would only be able to get an apple tree. Right? Good. So let's say now, so if we want to look at, so we know that apple tree can't produce oranges. So let's talk about a person. So can we agree that a person that would be classified as a good person would do good deeds, speak well, and have good positive thoughts? Most people agree and say, yeah, okay. So what about on the flip side, a person that we would consider as a bad person would have very bad actions, speak very bad words, and would have very negative thoughts, right? And most people say, okay, that's okay, let's go to another level. So let's say God commands his people to be respectful, kind, and perform good acts. Would that be a good God or a bad God? Most people say that'd be a good God. It's okay, fair enough. So then now, what if God commands his people to rape, murder, and pillage, go and take over other people's lands, and endorses slavery and sex with minors? Is that a good God or a bad God? Most people, they stop, they think, but you don't understand. There was a reason. I said, but hold on a minute. We just agreed an apple tree can't give oranges. We agreed that a good person has good deeds, good thoughts, and speaks good things. So then now how can a God be good, but commands his people to do bad things? Right?
Right. And also to use another Bible verse, you will know them by their fruits. What is the fruit of these? What to bring the fruit
Attributes.
analogy, like what is the fruits of this? It's not
fruits,
good.
No, the fruits are the attributes of the person. And the tree, if you look into scripture, the tree referred to a person. So when Christ spoke about tree, he was referring to a person because he had to speak in parables to protect the information. So the tree is the person and the fruit are their actions or attributes. So if you have bad actions, because I don't think anyone with 2 brain cells above room temperature can say that rape, murder, and pillage is a good act, and genocide, right? And here's another one that people don't understand. When you go through the entire Bible, God killed about, quotation marks, God killed about 3 million people, right? Satan supposedly Satan, he only killed about 10 people. And I tell people where that is. That's in the story of Job, where he killed all of Job's family. That's it. There's no other place in the Bible that is found that Satan actually did something. So again, which God is the God you're worshiping, and is that God good if he killed 3 million people?
I think the argument with that would be that Satan kills people by proxy because of sin. So he tempts people to sin and then they die, and so it's not actually him. It's like a mob hit, you know.
Yeah,
but
it's
I mean
a psyop
that's
too.
yeah.
I'm sharing screen now. I'm hopping in here. Hang on one second. Where the fuck? Why would it put the leave meeting right over the share screen button? Good lord. Okay, what you're looking at here is a compendium of notes that I've just been taking for a while now, over this exact topic that we're talking about. And this is just scriptures and links and things like this. So one of the things I wanted to point out here is exactly what you're talking about right now, Todd. Is this John 48:44? The devil is the murderer from the beginning. So whenever you look at something like that, you get just list after list. And Todd, you went over a few of them, but you got like the bears, you know, that were sicked on the kids for making fun of the priest and all that kind of stuff, right? Exodus, don't get me started, man. This is where his kill count just ramps up. And you're absolutely right. It is something, I heard 2.4 to 3 million, somewhere around in there. And then Satan, what the figure known as Satan would be 0 to 11 is exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right, man. It's fascinating. Now, this is one of the things that I thought was very interesting. When you get, I was just scrolling past the atrocities here that are all cited here and found in the Bible. But whenever you get to this part here in Revelation, where it reads, the devil deceives the whole world, 12:9 through 11. Now, that's interesting too, right? 9:11. So I just find this all fascinating. And whenever you look at this, 14, and no wonder Satan himself transforms into an angel of light. So you can look at all of this. And what this tells me right here at the end of the whole book, the big twist is that actually what you've been celebrating and praising and all that kind of stuff is the devil rather than God, right? It's the gotcha. But it seems that everybody skipped over the gotcha part and just started worshiping it ignorantly. And it's fascinating when you really break that down, though, but it does take questioning it, which the Bible specifically prohibits against. So it's an interesting thing there when you start breaking it down, Todd. And I'm glad you did, man.
Dude, it is mad because all religions stop you from questioning, right?
Yeah.
And this occurs even in politics as well, because politics is another religion. You're not allowed to question, right? And what we have is that we have, for me, the 3 main religions, as I coined them, that create the matrix and create this world are the religion of money, the religion of government, and organized religion. Through these 3 main religions is how everything else is built upon. And they're built, basically, those are 3 false religions because they're all created by man, right? And everything else is built on top of that. And what people don't understand is that there is a war for your mind, because at the end of the day, all of these things are done because they want to steal your consciousness. And consciousness is eternal. It's energy. It's neither created nor is it destroyed. And because we're all a fractal of source, and source is in us, it means that we are actually source, but we're just having individualized experiences. And this is why Christ said to the Jews, and he says, didn't it say in your scripture that ye are gods? And I think that part where is gods is Psalm 82, verse 1, I think from memory. And I think it goes, as God sat around the table of gods and said, how long shall ye oppress the poor and persecute the weak? Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm almost sure it's Psalm 82, verse 1. Now, basically, again, if Christ is saying that in your scripture says that ye are gods, then what he's trying to show them, hey, you actually have great power inside of you, right? And this is the whole trick. Christ never actually healed anyone, you know. Now, I know this can sound very controversial, but people heal themselves through their belief, because he actually says to them, it is through your belief that you are healed. Sin, through your belief, you are healed. go ahead and sin no more. Now, the Christians are going to come up, but here's the receipts. There's a brilliant guy called Joe Dispenza that uses science to prove consciousness and to prove that that is true. And there's something called the placebo effect and the nocebo effect. And that is written, and he wrote a book called You Are the Placebo. He wrote another one called Becoming Supernatural. And when I read those two books, I was like, okay, that proves that we are God, because according to Christians, only God can heal. And they believe that Jesus was God, right? So if Yeshua, in their opinion, is God, and he healed them, and through the placebo and nocebo effect, you can both heal yourself and harm yourself, does it not mean that we also are God?
Yeah, and people call it different things. So, I mean, saying you are gods, that
Oh.
might be like an archaic way to describe it. What I think what they mean is the power of your mind, and that has been, I would damn near say, proven, like you were talking about with the placebo effect. We've talked about it before on the show, but the guy that had some kind of cancer or something, and they gave him these pills saying it's going to cure your cancer, and it ended up being sugar pills. But he literally regressed, got better, or his cancer regressed, he got better, and then once they told him it was sugar pills, he died in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what
It's
is
in the
that?
holographic universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Yeah. That book really showed me that, wow. So all the things that all these ancient texts have been telling us is actually being confirmed by science now. And I think that the problem that we have is that science, holographic universe, I have that on my book list. That's a great book. We have science can actually prove consciousness, spirituality, and God at the same time. And I think that all those four fields should actually be merged together and studied together, because the truth is that there are a lot of things that we can't explain. And this was apparent when in the Pistis Sophia book, when Christ was when he rose, and this is one of the apocryphal texts. He was teaching his disciples the higher levels of information. And Mary, who was actually in other books basically referred to his wife, she was the one that was getting everything, right? She was the smartest of all of them. And in the book, Christ was like, guys, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, guys, like, what's going on, man? Like, this is I'm saying these things and only she's getting it, right? And he was really frustrated. But anyway, I digress. And he was trying to show them that there are things that we don't understand, but because we're using a linear way of thinking, and this is how our school system teaches us to think linearly, where we need to think like multidimensionally. So these things exist at higher levels. And this is the reason why they've separated science from spirituality and consciousness and the study of the human mind and energy, frequency, and vibration. Those things are all separate, but in reality, they're one, because they actually confirm each other, because sacred geometry is what creates the universe. It's really mathematics, harmonics, frequency, and energy. And this is why Nikola Tesla said that when humanity thinks in energy, frequency, and vibration, they will unlock the keys to the universe, right? And
Yeah, isn't that such a fucking tragedy too, that they separated science from spirituality when they really complement each other well, and things make a lot more sense when you merge those two together? And they separated them so the people on the science side think that spirituality is stupid and woo-woo. Spirituality side thinks science is terrible because of whatever. You merge those two together and you get alchemy, which we used to have. That's what alchemy was. It was the merging of science and spirituality and ideas like that. And look what we built in the so-called Dark Ages. It was amazing.
It seems like they took a DNA strand and just ripped it in half and then filled in the gaps, like in Jurassic Park with the frog DNA, you know, where it didn't quite complement and where it was missing the balance components, it actually added a repulsion effect to the other. So it replaced what balanced it out and took it and battled it against one another. And it's just fascinating to look at it now, because this is something we've been talking about, man. This merging of spirituality and science is sort of this age of enlightenment. That's the fifth D, right? That's figuring out how technology can actually benefit us in a spiritual way and vice versa. Instead of, raping everything around here, we figure out how to not do that. Can we just not rape everything? That would be great. And I think the merging of those two is where this singularity is headed. That's where we're going to find that a god and an architect, are pretty much the same thing, and then how to move forward from there, and maybe even to take the mask off and say, actually, you are the god and architect. And now that we've rebalanced these unbalanced halves, you can move forward. Go forth and be fruitful, right? Stick with your metaphor.
And it seems like that's the biggest push, is to make sure that doesn't happen from the controllers, whatever the they is. It seems like they're trying to keep, at all costs, keep that from happening, because then the ants outweigh the grasshoppers and they're done.
This is something I want to ask Todd about. So this is a great segue. Okay, Todd, what do you think about this? Because this is an interesting realm, and we've gone through, I think, a few different worldviews of perspectives, which is what we offer here, Joe. And I'm glad you had that delineation, that we just talk about the ideas, guys. And so moving through that, though, do you think that this breakdown, this ball worship, this sort of Moloch experience that we've been experiencing, or the realm has been experiencing for the past, since things were Tartaria, right? If we could just kind of give us that range, do you think that it was actually an apprehension that shouldn't have happened? Leading back to what you talked about the Demiurge and Sophia, that this is actually a carbon copy. So in that realm, then there wouldn't have been a Jesus, because it's all hell. It's just sort of a loose realm copy of it. And there's the idea of a Jesus that can come in and save, which kind of strings you along to keep you going. But that's this place, right? Or do you feel that this is actually motivating us for the ascension, and that this sort of apprehension was something to act as a kindling to get this awakening ignited? Does that make sense? And that they're really not against us. They're actually for us. They're just sort of the Mr. Smith whenever he's taking the headphone out when he's talking to Morpheus and he's pissed off about the Matrix. He's like, I hate this place. I hate the smell. I want to get in there so we can end it basically together, right? That he doesn't want any part of this either. So it's sort of like the system fueling us to break the system down.
Yes, it is. I have looked at that side, and I would say it's quite possible, because my mate has a saying, and this saying is very applicable to that question and statement. He said to me that human beings never ever wake up unless they actually go through a traumatic experience. And what seems to have happened to most people who speak like this and try to search for truth and entertain different ideas have had one or several traumatic experiences that's pushed them over the edge. And we seem to have this thing that we love comfort. And I would be first to put my hand up and say, yes, I am one of those people as well. I like things that are comfortable. But what I do know, and what I've observed from my life, is that it is only from me going through the most difficult times of my life that I've achieved the most growth, right? The most understanding and the most wisdom. And if I didn't go through those things, I would never have been able to be here on this platform speaking to you guys, right? So there seems to be a big element that they're just doing their job, right? And the Matrix is there to force us to wake up. Some wake up early, some wake up midway, some wake up very late, and some never wake up at all. And every human being has the responsibility to wake up. And I always say that if people like us could have awoken, it means that the normies out there can wake up as well. And because it seems to be this grand design, in reality, you can get infinite chances to I was thinking in Spanish there, to overcome the trials and tribulations, to merge back to source, right?
Which would be reincarnation, right?
Yes. And it appears that it can be that, like you said, Agent Smith, the Demiurge, the Anunnaki, the Archons, they're just doing their job, right? So you may not necessarily be right to hate them, but what it is that our acquiescence is making things more difficult. But someone has to do that role, right? And provide
Basically, they
all
have
the
to be
hardships.
the polar opposite because everything's
Yes.
duality. So they have to be there
Yes.
because it wouldn't exist without the other side and so on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark Gober's book, An Into Upside Down Medicine, he talks to a preacher in there who has done thousands of exorcism, and he says all the demons that he talks to don't like their job. They just have it because they have to motivate us to wake up. Which, to be honest with you, sounds like something a bitchy demon would say. I'm just saying.
The demons
but,
are just McDonald's workers. They're
oh,
like,
yeah.
fucking get me out of here. This
I hate
sucks.
this. This sucks, man. Here we're getting 15 an hour though. But it's interesting though to think of it that way, that they just have a job, that they don't care for it. And then think about also the ignorant people here who don't wake up, because they're as much of a catalyst for the people who do wake up as anything else around here. You need to see what you're not to do what you are. So there seems to be, like you said, a system here, which is a beautiful system, that continues to recycle that in this area, in which you can definitely predict and plan for it to be there. So this is where we get into the nobody's coming to save you because the system's not broken. It's producing exactly the way that it's supposed to. It's functioning great. So is this idea of like a 50 3D, like we're going to go over here, they're going to go over here, we're going to get to play and have unicorns fly around and shit, is that like a thing? Or is this something that keeps us moving through the grind machine of life, this death by 1,000 cuts thing?
Well,
You think this place can be fixed?
I do believe this place can be fixed. I am very optimistic that it will, but what I do see is that it's not going to be as how we think or expect it to be. That is for sure. Because what I would say is that there are certain things that we know for sure, and we know through all of the indigenous tribes on Earth that we were seeded here by people not from this planet. So the word extraterrestrial means not from Earth, because the term that was referred to Earth as well is terra. This is why in Portuguese, terra means land or earth, right? Tierra in Spanish means the same thing, land or earth. So again, when people understand the etymology and the root of words, Earth was referred to as terra. So extraterrestrial, the root word terra in there, extra meaning not from. So the Hopi, the Dogon, the Aborigines, the Navajo, the Sumerians, all of them say the same thing. Human beings are not from Earth. We are a genetic hybrid of extraterrestrial beings and the existing hominids here on Earth. That is almost like for certain, because we have there's something called the Terra Papers. Have you ever heard of the Terra Papers?
I don't think so.
Fantastic book. It was a Native American grandson that wrote it. And basically, this is interesting. The guy that wrote it, if you pull up quickly the name of the guy, I think it's Skywalker or something like that. He is the grandson of one of the people that was at the crash site in 1947, Roswell. And his grandfather communicated and spoke to the the extraterrestrial that was there. I can't remember his name of the UFO. It begins with B.
Did
Anyway,
you pull that up, Brandon?
Yeah, Robert Morning Sky.
Yes.
And Jordan Maxwell, actually. Shout out, man. Gone
So
too
not
soon.
not Skywalker, but close.
Yes, right. I know it was something Sky, right? Because I've read so many things, man.
Both of them are no longer with us, actually.
Yeah. But in that book, The Terra Papers, he's the grandson of one of the 7 native indigenous people of that area that spoke to the ET. And he got the story of, he confirmed that the Anunnaki came here, and also a whole bunch of stuff that was in the Sumerian tablets, right? Very, very good book, right? So these are certain things. We have so many sources on Earth now that confirm this. Another fact is that we do know and see that everything is inverted. So what that means is that there's a concerted effort to steer us away from divinity, source, love, happiness, and abundance, and everything that is good. So by steering us away from there, what it is doing is making us suffer, is making us depressed, sad. Like, dude, the amount of people today on earth that are literally feeling dissatisfied with their life because we're doing jobs that we don't want to do, or we're in relationships that we don't want to be in, or we're in countries and places that we don't want to be. And there's certain small reasons or big reasons that are keeping us there, and we're not feeling satisfied. And this is by design. And the reason why is that if you keep us distracted with these mundane things like bills and all that kind of stuff and money, you don't have time to go and do reading to work on yourself. Because the biggest threat to the entire matrix and system is the human being with time to invest in himself, to go and do things like plant psychedelics, Bufal Vadis, which is from the frog, read books, go to do meditation retreats, you know what I mean? Have the time to go and study the mystic arts, whatever, right? Sit down and spend time to do meditation. You imagine, right? To just do 15 minutes of meditation, most people say, I don't have the time for that. But when they check their lives, they spend more than 3 hours a day on their telephone, right? Sometimes that 3 hours is spent in bed. So they could turn the phone off and go and do 15 minutes of meditation and get way more from the universe than they would get on social media. So my point here is that we're being distracted, right? And that is the entire system, how it's made, because it's magic. And what does a magician do? He distracts you over here and then robs you over there. And this is what Babylonian magic that they've done, is this big spell that they put on humanity, and it's through deception and keeping us very busy with things that don't really matter. So
yeah, and nowadays they're not even distracting you really. They're just kind of robbing you blind, and they're like, "Yeah, we did that. We just robbed you. What the fuck are you gonna do about it?"
There you are.
But dude, wasn't it like they say that in California they spent so much, like $6 billion to do a high-speed train rail, and they only get what, 2 miles of it or something like that, something ridiculous like that.
It sounds like more money laundering. Yeah, that's pretty par for the course over here.
And then they spent so much billions of dollars to fight homelessness when homelessness increased. You know, dude, like everything is like literally inverted. So the way I see it is that if they tell you something is this way on TV, especially in the media, 99% of the time, think the opposite and do the opposite. 1% of the time, they may actually be with real information, but I think it's safe to say 99% do the opposite. Don't read that book, go and read that book. Sunlight is bad for you, sunlight is good for you. You know what I mean? All these propaganda pieces like, oh, you can maybe get a heart attack. Maybe if you're breathing too hard. That was a weird one, man. So my point is that literally the system is so inverted that right now, the best advice I could give people is whatever they hear in the media, 99% of the time, think the opposite and do the opposite. 99% of the time. And in that 1% of the time that it may be true, the odds are against you that 99% of the time you'll be fine. So don't worry about it, right?
But also just use your own, common sense. And yeah, that's really all you need. Like most of the time, like you said, 99% of the time you look at the media and you're like, I think the opposite of that. I'm going to do the opposite of that. Then there's every once in a while where you're like, that actually does make sense. Okay. Use your own personal judgment. Like you said, the sunlight's going to kill you. Yeah, you could just turn it off too. That actually works wonders. I haven't been paying attention to current events for, I don't know, the last year and a half. Except what's force fed down my neck because of Instagram and other places. But tuning out like all the the clickbait news and this is going on in the Middle East and this is okay, whatever. I'm gonna go feed my chickens, collect some eggs, and sit in the pool for a bit. Oh my God, you know how good that is? So good. Try it sometime, people. It's amazing.
Yeah,
dude, it is absolutely crazy that I was talking to a guy about 2 months ago, and I'm a political atheist, right? I literally support zero sides because right wing, left wing is all part of the same bird, right? and that bird is out to get us. And there's some things that are very factual about with Donald Trump. And one of the things is that under him, the illegal immigration was much lower, right, than under this current president. And this guy would vehemently disagreed with me and said that illegal immigration was lower under this president than under Trump. I was like, what planet are you on? I said, but where
Planet
do you get?
retard.
I said, but where are you getting your information from? You're not gonna believe this. CNN. I was like, dude, like, don't you realize that is called the Clone News Network? It's just propaganda. And then he said to me, but in reality, we need more people to come to our country. I was like, why? He says, because we need people to do all the jobs that the fat and lazy Americans wouldn't do. This is his words, you know. I said, but what's wrong with Americans doing those jobs? He's like, well, they don't want to do them, so we need other people to do them. I said, but that is because Americans are disenfranchised, disincentivized, to not do some jobs because they get a lot of support through welfare and stuff. I said, dude, it's the same as in England, right? He's like, no, that's not true. I said, but there are people that would make more money from the state than if they go and get jobs. And this is proven after the whole pandemic started. He was like, no, that's not true. I was like, okay. I said, but you do know that the reason why things cost more money now is because of the massive money printing. He was like, no. I was like, the reason why things are more expensive is because of the war in Ukraine. I said, but, well, yes and no. It is part of the reason because they printed much more money to give to Ukraine. So in printing more money, the purchasing power of the dollar goes down. So in one respect, you're right. But the main reason why is because of the printing of money, right? He said, but we have to defeat the Russians. I said, but dude, what does America have to do with Ukraine? Like, this, it shouldn't be their problem. He's like, we need to protect the democracy of Ukraine. I said, but dude, you do know that Ukraine is the most corrupt country on earth? And then they have groups like the Azov, who are real Nazis, like absolute 100% Nazis, right? And there was a guy called Bandara that was elevated to be some national hero, and he worked with the actual Nazis, and Bandara and his people helped kill, enslave, and worked with the SS, which were the German group. No, that's not true. I was like, dude, like, where do you get your information? Basically,
CNN
TV and CNN.
Isn't it weird though that those are the exact same people that they truly believe they're well informed because they're parroting exact words from CNN and even Fox or any of these things. They're parroting the same things they say, and they truly believe they are well informed. They won't even look at the, alternative. I guess we're called the alternative media, but they won't look at that because it doesn't line up with what they just heard on CNN. And you can't argue with them. Like, how are you going to argue with that? They think they're right. I'm willing to say I don't know if I'm right, but look at this other information, and they're like, no, I'm not going to even look at it. Okay, I'm going to go feed my chickens. Yeah,
but it's that sect of the people, like the Da Vinci quote, right? That there are three types of people, right? Those who can see, those who can see when shown, and those who don't see. But that don't see part of it is like 80% That's that part they just don't see. Like the argument you have with this guy,
or at least it seems like that. Maybe that's what we're told.
And we're being presented that, and that's fair too. I'm going to go ahead and not disempower people along. Thank you for the check, Joe. I appreciate that, and I will accept it humbly. But it does feel like this interesting balance effect that the part playing that role of doesn't see, like can't fucking see, even when shown, that plays the catalyst for those who can see and see when shown to really get the fuck out of here, it seems, and to sort of elevate out and make room for the next batch of folks who can see when shown, kind of a thing, just to figure it out. It's
It
interesting
seems like
'cause
the
one
the
needs
the
the other.
polarity thing. Yeah, the shadows
Yeah.
define the light, so it actually makes it
Right.
easier to see it when you have that shadow to define it. This clear delineation of this is not true. Obviously, like I can see it right there. So you need those
Yeah.
shadows. Okay, that's fine. We can
It's
deal
like
with that.
duality. It's like reflections. Everything's just reflecting off of one another, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to make a big call here. And that call is going to be that it doesn't matter the result of the election in November. I think that is going to be the biggest spiritual awakening for people on earth. And I'll tell you why I say that. Now, this guy, Donald Trump, is way more popular now than he was 4 years ago. And Sleepy Joe can't even fill a gymnasium. And I think that it is becoming very obvious to people that one, he's not popular. Two, he's not all there.
Come on,
And
man.
three, he's and also he's incapable. So this is how I see the two sides going. If Trump wins, there's a very big likelihood that the Democrats will do their best to hold on to power, because what will happen is that he will go after them through the court system as what they're doing to him now. So what will happen is that all the bodies that are buried potentially can come up, or even if not all, because I still think he's part of the system, some of the bodies will come up. Now, even if some of the bodies come up, what it will do is that it will show people that their government and governments, because the United States is just a microcosm of the entire world, right? The entire system the way it's set up. People will realize, hold on a minute, the government is not my friend. They're out to get me, and it is all smoke and mirrors. Now, they will fight hard to retain their power, which means that there could be some civil unrest, right? Now, if Sleepy Joe wins, what will be clear is that the level of stealing was monumentally greater than it was last time. Because if people remember, it was about 3 o'clock that all of these votes came in, and you had a hockey stick in the graph where all the states that needed to be counted all went for Sleepy Joe, and in roughly the same proportions and with the exact amounts that were needed for him to win. How is it possible that from counting to 3 o'clock, Trump is way ahead, and then all of a sudden, boom, just a hockey stick and a thing? It is mathematically is not possible, right?
You're just
So-
a conspiracy theorist, though, so we're going to dismiss you and all of your ideas from here
They
on
were
out.
sandbagging, you know? You just turn all your sales in at the last second. We used to do it all the time in competitions, you know?
You know what I mean?
Sandbag it.
So if they steal it from him, people will then wake up and realize, hold on a minute. Well, everybody would be like, why voted for this guy? I voted for this guy. And you will start to see a massive awakening of people. They'd be like, nah, this ain't right. The system is a fraud. So then now their consciousness is going to be broken down, because they will realize, hold on a minute, the system actually is a fraud. And I think then that would cause unrest as well, because they're going to be upset, because the first stage of spiritual awakening is actually anger. And I actually posted on my story today that exact same thing. Let me see if I can find the exact freaking quote for it, because it is actually quite true. And it says, spiritual awakening stage 1, unhappiness, despondency, and feeling lost. This is a time of confusion, disconnection, alienation, depression, and great unhappiness in life, with life. You're searching for something, but you don't know quite what. There is a great looming emptiness inside of you. This stage either emerges spontaneously or due to a life circumstance, as life's crisis. For example, breakup, divorce, death, trauma, illness, major life change. And you can put into there major political change, right? So what's going to happen is that if they steal it from him, people are going to go berserk, right? Rightly or wrongly, that's what's going to happen, because people are fed up. And like I said, this is not me speaking nicely about him, because I think Donald Trump is a great guy. I'm just speaking the facts here. He's extremely popular. The more cases that get thrown against him, the more popular he becomes. So if he's becoming more popular and people are waking up to that, if he doesn't win, that first stage of awakening will occur. And can you imagine millions and millions and millions of people all realizing at the same time that they're being stolen against and cheated? I think
it's close to that. It is close to that, like you said. And it seems like characters like Donald Trump are just agents of chaos. They're agents of change, or what? Even Biden, he's a chaos agent. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's a cartoon. It's so ridiculous on its face that dude is apparently our president and making all these decisions, which all of us know he's really not. But for the rest of the world, that's our fucking president. Grandpa Smelly, Sleepy Joe. That's so stupid. Like 20 years ago, people would be laughing about this. And now they just accept it as, oh yeah, he's great. This is the best he's ever been. He's cogent. What? No, he's not. He's terrible.
Have you heard that he is most likely either, is it Dana Carvey or fuck, what's his name? The Ace Ventura guy. Come on.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey?
Thank you, Jim Carrey. Yeah, just in a mask. Have you seen this? Tyler Hansen.
Oh yeah,
the fittest flat earther does this, and it is one of the best things because he shows how in the movies Jim Carrey falls this way, and then also when Sleepy Joe fell up the stairs, he fell this way, and sort of the wandering off and the mannerisms and stuff is real Jim Carrey, and it's almost like they just move these actors around. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and to actually
absolutely.
say that Jim Carrey is playing him is, I mean, whatever. Oh, you got to pee too, Todd? No. I had to pee early. No, we can wrap up, actually. We have another show coming up tonight, too, so we can wrap there. But
let's do a part two sometime, because this was just so cool. We'll do this
great
again.
Talk, though, guys. Sure. Thanks for coming in. Also, I will post Todd's Instagram, Adriano_246 on Instagram. And send me your podcast links too, because I want to put those in the show notes as well. But
yeah, sure.
If you haven't seen him, he has nude photos of himself on Instagram. Well, at least topless. And I'm not saying I'm gay, but he's got a great body.
You are gay.
Only reason I'm following. I didn't even know you did other content, to be honest with you.
Now he's like a personal trainer and stuff too.
That's all that pops up in my algorithm is you shirtless. I thought it was a nice treat. To see you with your shirt on, first of all, but also to hear that you have something to say. This is great.
He's like, look at this ripped brown man following.
Just eye candy. This is exceptional, man.
Love it. Well, you guys got any parting words of wisdom or anything else you want to eke out right before we close?
Well, what I would say is that try to be like what Plato said. Plato said you need to be the scholar and the athlete at the same time. He said that is what a model citizen looks like. And that's what I try to do. I try to be the athlete and the scholar. So I work on myself both mentally, spiritually, and physically, because we are a mind-body-spirit complex. And this is one of the reasons why I am a trainer and I'm into fitness, because it's something I'm good at, I love to do. And also, I also talk about the spiritual aspects. So all of these things that I have spoken about is sort of like embedded in some form into my coaching, because I would give my clients books to read, give them meditations. I help them to try to hack their mind and improve their mindset, because the thing about it is that in order to get into shape, you actually need is actually more of a mental battle than necessarily a physical, because the body achieves what the mind believes. So if you believe that you can get into shape, you will. If you don't believe, you will never do it. It's just that simple, because what did that book say? As a man thinketh, so shall he believe, right? So
placebo. Yep.
Absolutely, right? So I just want to say to people that, I know that it may seem like if the world is going to hell in a handbasket, but I am extremely optimistic that we will overcome. And the reason why I say that is because there are people like me, Brandon, you here doing our best, and we're just like y'all. We've just woken up a little bit earlier and been brave to to put ourselves out there, come on camera, share our ideas. And the thing is with, people need to realize they don't have to agree on every single thing. And this is one of the things that I see even in our community, right? Like there's some people in the community that are staunch flat earthers, but there are other people that are non-flat earthers. I'm more of a toroid, where I think it's both flat and round, right? So I actually think that flat earth is a bit of a psyop to cause division, like you were saying, Brandon, before. I think that's just another tactic to cause division. So what we need to do is say, look, okay, we may not believe the earth is flat or wrong, but we do believe that and know that the government is trying to kill us. So let us focus on that part, right? We can agree on that. And the other, we can just put to the side, because does it really, really matter if it's flat, wrong, oblong, or square? Not really, dude.
According to some people, it really does matter because it's the highest form of deception. And I get it, but still, like you said.
It's only important because asking the question shows that you've been deceived. Now, whatever the outcome of that is, like NASA, it's never a straight answer. It means, to deceive in Hebrew, right? But it's whatever they're saying is not what's going on, but we know that. It's not also, though, flat earthers then will presuppose that that's exactly what's going on. And that's not what I'm saying. When we have that conversation, it's about critical thinking. And that's what I love about the conversation. That's why when you get people so damn passionate about it, you can just feel that there's a big shakeup from the official narrative. That's sort of the anchor. And the far swing of the pendulum is just the absolute that it's this and not that, rather than it's definitely not this, but we don't know what it is, or we're open to discover new things with our observation.
I said that in the last show. My favorite answer from guests is, I don't know.
Oh, fucking no, man. That's the most beautiful one.
Like me either.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure this shit out, dude, together. And it's been beautiful. This is awesome.
I say to people, right? Like, we have not had any proper, credible video evidence from high enough to see what the exact shape is. Until we do, we're only supposing. So I don't know. From my research has shown me that it's more like a toroid, but can I be wrong? Yes. The thing is, right, is that the problem is that when you have staunch people that are so staunch in their beliefs, if it's flat or not, it's another religion. It's like the whole jab thing and freaking pandemic. That was another religion, right? So This is why I said earlier that we have so many different religions on earth. And basically religion is basically based on dogmatic statements that are not allowed to be questioned. This is why when you brought up, Brandon, the biblical quotes, and I brought up the biblical quotes and the Islamic quotes as well, you're not allowed to question those things, right? Because if you question those things, that's heresy. But I'm like, but it's there, right? It's in their books, right? It deserves to be questioned. And if you're not...
It's the same with science. Yeah.
It's the same with science.
Absolutely.
You can question science. And the thing is that if other narratives, information, sources, ideas, thoughts are injected into the conversation and they make sense, you can be like, okay, well, for now, that could be true, right? And then other information comes, well, actually, what we knew before is superseded, so this thing is true. And that's how it works, right? Because I could be wrong about everything I say. And if I am, and I get new information, well, I will run with the new information, right? Because I'm only going on what I have now. And this is the thing, right? People are so stuck in their belief systems that they can't even question themselves or have other people question. And this is what causes a lot of separation, because those things are like identities for people. So a person that is a Christian has their viewpoint to the world of being a Christian. So for them, their identity is Christian. A Jew is the same thing. His whole viewpoint is of a Jewish experience. A Muslim, the exact same thing. But the problem is that those three, which are supposed to be Abrahamic religions, don't even ever sit down at a table, bring out all the texts and stuff, and look to see where they actually agree, see what makes sense. Because one thing about truth, the first thing, it has to make sense. If truth does not make sense, how can it possibly be true, right? That's the first thing. So this is one of the things that, like, Christ says that something is true because it is already in you. Why? because truth has a frequency, a vibration. It's an energy. You may not hear something for the first time, and when you hear it, it resonates with you. You start to vibrate, and you know it's true. This is why it's not thinking, it's knowing, because you are part a fractal of source. So source is you. You are a source.
This
And
is
because
probably why
source-
they tried to separate science from spirituality so much, because science is trying to quantify things and be like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the feeling. We have to do the facts. We have to do the hardcore. We can count this and categorize it, and that's not how humans are. Like you said, when you hear something true, you can feel it, and it hits you differently. Can you put that on a graph or a flowchart? No, you just
you
know.
measure
A
it?
lot of
It's just
things
part
science
of you.
offer are against your own observation, which challenges you as well. Because now they're gaslighting you with false claims that you're already questioning just simply due to your own damn perception of your reality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, right? Like, I think that being curious and asking questions is very, very important. And one of the things that, like, if you really look at Christ and how he spoke, when people made statements that to him, he actually replied in questions, you know. Because when remember this story of when Pontius Pilate was saying to him, "Oh, they say that you're the king, you're king of the Jews." He said, "They say that I am," and then he replied with a question. I can't remember the question, but he never took anything from himself, and he always replied with a question. And this is what people don't realize. Like, when you pose back questions, and again, when he was talking to the Jews, he never said, he said, "Didn't it say in your text, your scripture, that ye are Jews?" And they couldn't come back because it's written there. He's asking a question, but in a rhetorical way to get them to think, right?
No,
And
it's
this is-
genius. It's holding a mirror up, and people fucking hate that. When you hold
It's
up a
Jesus.
mirror
They
up,
get
they
vexed.
will lash out and hate you. And look what happened to Jesus. They hated him because
This is the
he's
point,
like,
though.
no, look at you, look at yourself, and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's your fault now.
That's the thing, mirrors trigger, and we only trigger or bring up what the other needs the most. And that happens to be triggers in this place if you haven't been on a healing path. And that's why when we get around each other, we can say interesting things, even not agree, but come to clarity with explanations of perspective. And no one's triggered here. No one, is pissed off because you're saying something that I don't necessarily agree with or believe in or can't, whatever. It's silly to think that those triggers are how we heal things. And so that's why you can meet when you come in like we are, we don't have to necessarily have these types of conversations with everyone. But what I know that we naturally do, all of us here, is trigger people, just simply because, number one, we have boundaries, and we won't just concede in things because of our understanding of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So I'm not going to sit there and agree with you about how sorry I should feel with you when you want me to and get that type of attention, because I don't subscribe to that. So again, there's this dissonance, because then that's triggering, right? Because well, why don't you want to hear about all my problems and shit? Because I'm not on that vibe, man. So it's this fascinating trigger be mirrored type of a deal. And on that note, guys, I got to pee too. So I'm gonna,
I know. I actually have to pee again.
we can do this
so
for
this
fucking
is
ever.
great.
You know this.
Let's
Okay.
all go pee together.
Yeah.
I mean, in
across the
different
streams?
locations, but yeah, let's
Right.
cross streams
Right.
etherically. Yeah.
Etherically.
All right, you guys, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And Brandon, I'll see you at 6 for the next show.
Looking forward to it, dude.
But
I'm
Todd,
pumped.
you guys need to get together, do a show on Brandon's.
Done.
You can
Yep.
continue this conversation. Maybe we can join you as well, but that'd be awesome.
Oh, let's do
But,
that. We'll do a part 2 over on my stream, and fucking Joe, I'll let you in on it. Yeah.
man.
Todd,
And
that's
also,
done, dude.
before we go, I also, to let people know, I can get, because I'm into the spiritual side of things, I can help people get magic mushrooms to help them on their spiritual path. And I just had a really good story today from a lady. She got some mushrooms from me, and she's completely off of antidepressants now. And
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
man. And she followed exactly what I told her to do. She said to me literally today, she's been off for a week now because she got the protocol that I've been following. So like, it helps with coming off antidepressants, traumas, and also PST,
Oh, yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So I'm very, very happy, because that's the reason why I helped her out, and she contacted me. So anyone that's also interested in getting some Magic Mushrooms. Hit me up on my socials at Adriano_246. Check out my podcast. It's called The Conscious Man 7. All the links are in my bio. You can get the audio version only, Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, or you like the videos, you can get Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, etc. And also, if you're interested in getting into shape and getting into learning how to eat, how to train, how to cook, and leveling up mentally, spiritually, and physically at the same time, just message me again on at Adriano_246 or on Facebook, my name, Todd Cave, and let's have a conversation and let's see if it can help,
Let's do it. And obviously, we'll put all those links into the notes as well as Brandon's, and you can find them, everywhere you look. Just Google it, people. Don't be lazy. You don't need a link from me. You can fucking find it. I know you can. I believe in you. But piss and love to everybody on YouTube, Rockfin, and audio. We will see you next time.
Piss!
Thank you for listening to Legit Bad. Please address all content grievances to gofuckyourself@yourmom.com. See you next week.